Hey YouTube, Slingblade98 here. As a hardcore fan of wrestling for 6 years, I've come to that transitional phase of my life where I can't enjoy the stuff WWE is marketing to kids anymore. I'll admit, I was a pretty gullible fan when I first came on board. I would always cheer the face and boo the heel just like I was told. As I get older, I find it progressively harder to get behind a one-dimensional character like John Cena. I've learned a lot about character analysis in the last few years, and as I age, it's not bloodbaths and live sex celebrations I need. I just need something more than the simple-minded soap opera storylines that they're churning out today. So since a roster made largely of male models, and hookers with tits faker than the punches are unlikely to recreate Guerrero versus Malenko, I think better promos are the only way to save WWE from going the way of their competition 10 years ago. I recently sat in a dark corner of my cluttered garage where the spirit of Cactus Jack would be at home, and watched Mick Foley's greatest hits and misses from start to finish. And what stood out to me wasn't just the wrestling, it was the believability of the promos that Mick did as Cactus Jack in Extreme Championship Wrestling. I pondered the sad reality that nobody from NXT will ever put on a match that is more than just a glorified bathroom break opportunity. That being said, I figured that they could at least learn to cut a good promo in spite of their limited wrestling skills. Many great men on the microphone were average wrestlers in the ring. For instance, Mick Foley and Jake the Snake Roberts, two of the best promo men of all time, were by their own admission not the best workers. What they could do, however, better than anyone else, was cut a promo where you realized that they were so into it that they actually started to mean what their character said. I realize you can't teach the kind of mastery that Mick Foley displayed as Cactus Jack. With that being said, WWE wrestlers could still improve on the mic significantly with coaching from legends such as Raven, Terry Funk, Mick Foley, Jake Roberts, Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Nick Bockwinkel if he's still alive, I believe he is, and a better creative direction. These men have bled to further the wrestling business, and some former wrestlers could really use the paycheck due to the irresponsible life choices their tough career forced them to make, and their high medical bills due to a lifetime of injury. I'm sure at least a few of them would be willing to help if the project was presented in the right way. So my point is that if we take wrestling in a darker direction, it can get edgy again without necessarily having to return to the bloodbaths and live sex celebrations I mentioned. I think wrestling is a lot like a comic book. We have superheroes and villains, pretty girls, sidekicks, and black and white feuds. The time for good versus evil has passed, though. Comic books have gotten pretty good, while WWE remains stuck in a 50s iteration of Super Cena versus Lex Laurinaitis. Many things that are aimed at kids have gone a darker route that is more thought-provoking. I would cite Team Plasma in the Pokemon games as a damn good example of the line between good and bad being blurred. They, the villains, wanted to free Pokemon from their human captors, while you were the hero who enslaved the little creatures and forced them to hurt each other. That is actually pretty deep and thought-provoking. I haven't said those words about WWE since the Straight Edge Society ended 2 or 3 years ago. There are some more brooding serious works like Teen Titans and the original Batman comic and the Justice League that prove edgy doesn't need a TV-14 rating. I remember some heavy moments on those shows. Honestly though, I believe this would be new territory for WWE. They were edgy in the Attitude Era, but it was more in a trashy, violent, smash-mouth, rock and roll kind of way. What if we were to bring the spirit of great movies like The Dark Knight into wrestling? I don't necessarily mean we need to rip off characters or anything, but what about the feeling you had when you looked into Heath Ledger's eyes and saw that nobody was home and that he had made the Joker real for a brief moment? I looked into Mick Foley's eyes, and when he talked about getting sliced open and dropped on his head and screeched, "It hurt," in an anguished voice, I knew that during that promo, Mick Foley didn't exist, but Cactus Jack did. I want to watch WWE and feel that. For me, it hurts when I see the state of something that has meant so very, very, very much to me over the years. On Raw, the promos are so very bad, and whenever the main event isn't interrupted by Just for Men, Budweiser, or Burger King, it's ruined by storylines events, such as a GM ordering the lights out or another wrestler interfering. Storylines should drive the wrestling to new heights, but WWE storylines drive the matches into the goddamn ground. When old-time wrestlers got into the ring, they let their actions speak for them because the storylines were wrestling-based. Now there's so much non-wrestling-based feuds, such as the GM conspiracy storylines we've seen since the success of McMahon versus Austin. The storylines are really robbing us of any quality of enjoyment we'd get from a good match. The phrase sports entertainment is used on WWE programming every night, but lest they not forget that sport takes top bill in that phrase. If we have to hear so very much talking, let us make it a strong point of the show and take solace in how good that product is at taking advantage of its strong points. Lean on your strong points. In wrestling, one leg is promos and the other leg is the wrestling itself. WWE is leaning on promos from mediocre talkers, most of whom can't wrestle well either. They need to find a leg to stand on before they fall on their ass. Thank you. Good night.